There are 27 Muslim countries in the world that nobody else but a Muslim can buy property or land in them countries.
Give me one of them.
I cannot think of the country itself.
So here's what's about to happen, and it's worth paying close attention. You're going to hear a caller who genuinely believes he's arrived armed with devastating facts about Muslims, the kind of claims that sound impressive when they're delivered confidently and without challenge. He's clearly convinced he's about to expose something the host either can't or won't deal with. But what follows is a lesson in how misinformation actually collapses when it meets even the lightest resistance. There's no shouting, no insults, no grandstanding. Just calm, measured questioning, the kind that doesn't argue with the claim, but simply asks it to stand on its own 2 feet. And that's why this exchange is so effective. Because instead of attacking the caller personally, the host lets the claims unravel themselves. One question at a time, one request for evidence, one quiet pause where certainty turns into hesitation. It's polite, controlled, and absolutely devastating. Not because it's aggressive, but because it's grounded in reality. So watch closely, not just for what the caller says, but for what happens the moment he's asked to back it up. We'll let the clip play out, and once it's finished, I'll come back and break down exactly why this approach works so well, and why it exposes a much bigger problem with how these narratives spread in the first place.
Professor Matthew Goodwin, who has done this research, has come to the conclusion, based on census data, he has come to the conclusion that the white British share of the population, again, very critical to define our terms here, defined as, for this report, defined as people who do not have an immigrant parent, the white British share of the population could have fallen to by around a third, 33.7% by 2063. He says that's going to raise great concern. My question to you is, what concern? And why concern? Lenny's in Ashford. Lenny!
Good afternoon, Tom.
Squire.
Well, I am really concerned for my offspring that we are going to lose our religion and our Britishness, and it's got to happen.
It's got to happen.
Yes. Well, if may I think Sir Winston Churchill can explain it better than me, and he's I think were wise words. Mm-hmm. When Muslims are in the minority, they are very concerned with minority rights. When they are in the majority, there are no minority rights. And that was the wise words of Winston Churchill.
I will check the wise words of Winston Churchill on that particular point, Lenny.
Yeah, please do.
But there is absolutely no suggestion, even if that were true, that there is going to be a majority Muslim country anytime soon here.
Well, I mean, the way the country is going, the Muslims already have priority over the indigenous people of our country.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's two-tier law, isn't it?
What does that mean?
There's double standards with our law and order at the moment in favour of the Muslim community.
Right. Tell me in what way, sir?
Well, if you watch, it's every day. There are when you have a Muslim parade, they're allowed to get away with no arrest, nothing, and talk about their religion and the infidel, what they want to do with the infidels.
Which parade is
this? And then
Lenny?
when it comes to an English parade by patriots of this country, they're treated totally different.
Lenny, what parade is this that you've seen where chants about the infidels have been let out?
Well, when you see it, on a Saturday, nearly every week in London and the cities. When you see, what we are only the basic religion of an infidel is that when when possible, and they preach to kill infidels.
Lenny, you're right. There are people who use an extremist version of Islam, we normally call it Islamists, who preach some horrendous things about jihad and infidels and all that kind of stuff. Normally they're picked up by the police. Too often they're able to find a loophole or two that keeps them out of the prison cell for a long time. But the police are putting people like that behind bars.
Not often enough, Tom. When you look at the,
but what about any of this, Lenny? By the way, the remark you attribute to Winston Churchill, I'm quoting here, Lee Pollock, the trustee and advisor to the board of the International Churchill Society, says, of the quote that you just gave, Lenny, it does not appear in any of his many books, articles or speeches, nor is there any attribution from a witness that he/she heard him say that.
Well, I personally read something by Winston Churchill, and I thought
Right.
I'll save that for one day because that will come in handy.
And it's something that the trustee and advisor of the board of the International Churchill Society has not read?
Okay, well, put it this way then.
So you might be wrong. Do you think you might be wrong on that quote?
If I am wrong, I am saying it because when you go to a Muslim country, you haven't got no rights.
So you haven't. Just to be clear, you are now not ascribing that quote to Churchill. You're telling me that you are saying it as something that you believe to be true.
Well, when I read it, it was signed by Winston Churchill, and if he didn't say it, if he did not,
it was signed by Winston Churchill.
My fear.
You saw it online, didn't you, Lenny? And you saw a signature of Winston Churchill underneath that quote with maybe a picture of Winston Churchill in the background. And you, in your head, you've said, "Oh my God, Winston Churchill signed this off and put it as a meme on Instagram."
Well, all right. If we
that.
agree to disagree on that, but I will say, you go to a Muslim country. When does infidels have the same rights as a Muslim?
What do you mean by infidel?
Non-Muslims.
Have the same rights?
Well, there are 27 Muslim countries in the world that nobody else but a Muslim can buy property or land in them countries.
Give me one of them.
Well, a lot of them are in Africa, and
give me one.
Hold on, which one was it?
Well, it was the same one that was underneath the Winston Churchill post, probably.
No, it wasn't. Let me. No, I'll tell you something.
Okay.
I cannot think of the country itself, but no. But when you hold on, where does everybody go for holidays? Muslim countries, dear. I'm sorry, Tom.
Don't you worry, Lenny. It's very hard. I understand. If you come on national radio and you ascribe quotes to a former prime minister that turns out not to be true, and then you can't think of a single country in Africa to back up your point that there are 27 countries in which I can understand that that's a very difficult thing. If it's all right with you, I'm going to leave it there because, thank you for...
Now, let's slow this down and look at what actually just happened, because this exchange is far more revealing than it first appears. Pay close attention to the strategy here. Tom doesn't raise his voice, he doesn't mock the caller, he doesn't lecture or grandstand. Instead, he does something far more effective. He asks simple, precise questions, the kind that force a claim to either stand up or collapse on its own. The caller, Lenny, comes in with two core talking points that anyone who's spent time online will instantly recognize. First, he reaches for a quote he attributes to Winston Churchill. It sounds profound, it sounds historical, it carries borrowed authority. But the moment Tom checks it against the historical record, the entire thing falls apart. No speech, no writing, no evidence. Just a quote that turns out to be fabricated. And this is where things really start to unravel. Once that primary source is exposed as unreliable, the caller pivots instantly. No pause, no reflection. He moves straight onto a second claim, that there are supposedly 27 Muslim countries where non-Muslims are not allowed to buy land or property. Again, it's delivered with confidence. Again, it's framed as an established fact. So Tom asks the most basic question imaginable. Give me one. And suddenly, everything changes. The certainty evaporates. The caller stumbles. He gestures vaguely toward Africa. He insists the information exists somewhere, but he can't name a single country. Not one. What was presented moments earlier as a concrete global reality turns out to be nothing more than a recycled talking point with no substance behind it. This is the real lesson of the exchange. You're watching the full life cycle of misinformation in real time. A claim starts in a dark corner of the internet. It gets dressed up with a famous name or a historical image. It gets shared, repeated, and reinforced until it